Hello everybody, my name is Mars, you can call me MG if you would like, and today I'm here to talk about authors that I have never read from before. So about a year ago, I started doing what I call my taste test vlogs, where I pick authors that are very prolific, very beloved, ones that have a lot of books out that I somehow have never read from, and I pick 2 or 3 books from their vast collection of works to read and kind of give me a sample of who they are as a writer to learn if I enjoy their books and if I want to read more. So far, I've done this for 3 different authors. I've done it for Rebecca Ross, whom I absolutely adore, and I've now read almost her entire backlist. I just have one more to go, and I love her so much, I would consider her a favorite author now. I've done this for R.F. Kuang, who I definitely enjoyed. I wouldn't consider her a favorite author, but I'm definitely interested in continuing to read from her. And similarly, I've read from Leigh Bardugo now, from my taste test vlogs, and again, I wouldn't consider her a favorite author, but I did really enjoy what I read from her, aside from the one that I DNF'd, but I'm looking forward to reading more of her books, so I will leave those linked down in the description for you to check out if you're interested. This video, though, is just going to be me talking about 10 different authors that I would like to do taste tests of and which of their books I am most interested in reading. So these are kind of just in the order of when they came to me, not in any like priority order or anything, just when I thought of them, I put them on the list. And first up we have Margaret Owen. This is an author I genuinely don't know a lot about. As far as I'm aware, she only has a couple of series, the first of which is Little Thieves and also The Merciful Crow, so those are the 2 books that I would be checking out from her. Yes, it would be starting new series. A lot of these authors, if I do these taste test videos, I will be starting a lot of new series, but that's fine. These are middle grade fantasy series, and that's pretty much all I know about them. I know that Carrie from Carrie Can Read loves Margaret Owen. I know that she's friends with Margaret Rogerson, who is an author that I really love. So, despite not knowing a lot, I'm definitely willing to give her books a chance, and hopefully I love them. Next on the list is Ava Reid, who I feel like everyone either loves her or, no, I'm not gonna say hates her, because I haven't seen anyone like hate her books, but I feel like people either really enjoy them or really don't enjoy them because she writes kind of like gothic horror and uses some themes and tropes and such that a lot of people aren't really a fan of, but I really like that sort of thing, so I very much want to try her books. The 3 that I think I would read for a taste test vlog of her are The Wolf and the Woodsman, Juniper and Thorn, and Lady Macbeth. I do also want to read A Study in Drowning, but that is a Dark Academia book, and if you didn't know, I have a Dark Academia book club. Every 2 months we read one Dark Academia book, and I would like to save A Study in Drowning for a future book pick, I think. Next up, we have Chuck Tingle, and I admire him and all that he writes. I've been following him on social media for like 10, 15 years at this point. Like, I know the kind of things that he writes. I am not interested in his crazy erotica romance books. I appreciate that he writes them. I don't think they're for me. I am, however, super interested in the horror that he's been publishing over the last few years because it is kind of a big shift that he has taken as an author. And the ones that I'm interested in are Straight, Camp Damascus, and Bury Your Gaze. He has recently published Lucky Day, that's his newest release, and I am interested in reading that, but not as much as I am the other ones. Then we have V.E. Schwab, also known as Victoria Schwab. She publishes under both names, and she is probably the author on this list that has like the most books out and the most popularity with those books, and it's actually crazy that I've never read from her before. I have known about her for a very long time, and I feel like if I had read some of her YA stuff when I was in high school, I would have loved it, but I just never got around to it. I know Katie, author Katie Chandler, she has been trying to get me to read Victoria Schwab for years because that's one of her favorite authors, and Katie and I have moderately similar reading taste. Not exactly the same, but there is quite a lot of overlap. And I trust Katie's book recommendations, so I think I just need to get on this and read some V.E. Schwab. So the three books that I would most be interested in reading from her are City of Bones, which is the start of her middle grade, like, paranormal type series. I do love a good spooky middle grade. Vicious, which is the first in her villains duology, although I think I heard that it might be getting a third book, so maybe it's a trilogy? I don't know. But that one is another series that I know Carrie from Carrie Can Read really loves, and I also trust her book recommendations. And then I also want to read A Darker Shade of Magic, which is the only book that I will be talking about in this video that I own physically. I got this from a thrift store a couple of months ago. I think it was like 50 cents, so I own it. I am one step closer to doing this taste test, but this is the start of a series that I think it's a trilogy, but then there's also like a spin-off series that's happening. I don't know, but this is about like parallel universes or something and like hopping between them, and that just sounds so cool. So I really do think V.E. Schwab could be a favorite author. I just genuinely need to start reading her books. The next author on this list is another one where back when I was in high school, she was super duper popular, and she's still super duper popular to this day, even though it's been like a decade, and that is Maggie Stiefvater. I know that her Wolves of Mercy Falls series is like super big, especially when the Twilight craze was happening and everyone was publishing vampire and werewolf books. That was a super duper popular series. I don't think that one's for me, so that is not on this list, but I do want to acknowledge that series. I know Maggie has said that that is like the one that pays her bills, like even to this day, that's what she gets the most money from, which good for her, make that money. But the ones that I'm most interested in are, of course, The Raven Boys, which is her other super famous series, and I know that the Nostalgia Train Book Club did read this a couple of years ago, I think, and I didn't join in, and I regret that because I think it would have been so much fun to read it and talk about it with my friends, and I know they all loved it, but I will read it eventually. And then I also want to read a couple of her standalones. So we have All the Crooked Saints, which I feel like is magical realism-ish, and then The Scorpio Races, which is a fantasy. And I feel like I don't hear people talking about those as much, but after reading the summary of them, they do both sound really interesting, so I'd like to check them out. Okay, we have made it to the second half of the list, 5 down, 5 to go. So the next one is actually a bit interesting. The next author on my list is Christina Henry, and she has like two different sets of books that I would like to do taste test for, so I'd probably do like a part 1 and a part 2, the same way I did for Rebecca Ross. Well, not the same way, because I did a part 1 and part 2 for Rebecca Ross because her books are duologies, so part 1 was reading the first books, then part 2 was reading the second books to finish out the duologies. This, however, would be a part 1 and part 2 because Christina Henry is very much known for her retellings, specifically horror retellings. I love horror. A lot of authors on this list write horror, but she's got things like Alice, The Lost Boy, The Girl in Red, The Mermaid, and they're all retellings of like fairy tales, and those all sound super interesting. But she also has non-retelling horror books, and I would like to check those out as well. So we have Near the Bone, The Ghost Tree, and Good Girls Don't Die. So I probably would do 2 taste test videos for her to see if I like her retellings and to see if I like her non-retellings. Next up is another horror author, and that is Caitlin Starling. I really like how she has sci-fi horror and fantasy horror. I don't read enough sci-fi horror. I really do need to read more of that. From Caitlin Starling specifically, I want to read The Luminous Dead and Last to Leave the Room. And then from her fantasy horror, I want to read The Starving Saints and The Death of Jane Lawrence. The Death of Jane Lawrence I specifically want to read because it has a historical setting, and I love a good historical setting. I think this takes place in like the moors of England or something like that, very Wuthering Heights, very Jane Eyre, so I'm super excited for that one. The Starving Saints is her newest novel, and I feel like I've heard mixed reviews on that, but I am still curious to check it out. Okay, I think I said that V.E. Schwab was the author with the most books published out of all of the ones on this list. Although, now that I'm thinking about it, Chuck Tingle does have 1,000,001 books, but I wasn't thinking of him. But also, I think Catherine M. Valente might also have 1,000,001 books published, and she is the next author I'd like to do a taste test of. I have been wanting to read her books for a long, long time, ever since I believe it was Izzy's who did a video on this, like, lost media video game that didn't really exist, that, like, I don't know, it's really hard to explain. I will leave a link in the description to that video just because it's a very fascinating video, and I really love Izzy's content. I think she makes wonderful videos, but it ended up being a Catherine M. Valente story, and it's just so fascinating, and reading about the kinds of things she writes, I'm like, yeah, this all sounds right up my alley. And yet I have yet to actually read her books, so I definitely have to get on that. And I would honestly like to read any of the things that she's written, but for the purposes of this video, I've narrowed it down to 4 things. So we have Comfort Me with Apples, which is a novella. We've got Deathless, which I think is a full-length novel, and it is a retelling of Russian folklore. And then we've got some short story collections, the Refrigerator Monologues and the Melancholy of Mecha Girl. And I believe the Melancholy of Mecha Girl is the collection where the short story about the video game thing is in, but I'm not totally positive. Please don't quote me on that if I'm wrong. The penultimate author on this list is one that I'm not 100% sure. I'm, like, interested in reading her books, but I'm not super interested in going out of my way to get her books, if that makes sense. Like, her books sound cool, but they don't sound like they're gonna be anything absolutely favorited by me. But that is Alex E. Harrow. I know this is another author where people really, really love some of her books, but others are not quite what they expected. It might have been a little bit disappointing, but the ones that I would be interested in reading are A Spindle Splintered, which is a tongue twister. I believe that is a fairy tale retelling type book. We have Starling House, which is a more gothic story, and then The Once and Future Witches, which is, what is it called? King Arthur. It's a King Arthur retelling. That's what it is. So yeah, I would like to read these, but I am not, like, super prioritizing it right now. And then finally, we have Kate Alice Marshall, who I know writes a lot of thrillers, and thrillers aren't really my thing, as I've learned in the past year or so. Thrillers are fine, I just don't personally vibe with them most of the time. She does, however, have a couple of horror novels, so Rules for Vanishing is a YA horror, 13s is a middle grade horror. We've already established I love a spooky middle grade, so I would definitely be reading those. And then out of her thrillers, I think the one that most interests me is I Am Still Alive, because it kind of toes the line between thriller and horror, and it's also a, like, post-apocalyptic kind of story. I think it's told in 2 timelines, and it just sounds really interesting, so I definitely want to read those books. Kate Alice Marshall is a author that I know Jess from the Hex Library really likes, and Jess is another friend of mine who I trust her reading taste because it does overlap quite a bit with mine. So even if Kate Alice Marshall does write a genre that isn't usually my thing, I still think I would really enjoy some of her books. So there we have the 10 authors I most want to do taste tests of. Let me know which of these authors you'd like me to read from first, and I will try to prioritize them and get those vlogs out for you because, you know, it is for my own enjoyment to see if I like these authors, but also the vlogging aspect is for you guys, and if you want to see them, I will make those vlogs happen for you guys. But we have now come to the end of the video. If you've enjoyed it, be sure to give it a big thumbs up. You can subscribe to my channel for more content, and that way I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye, everyone!